By the way, did you know, what are the effects of minimum wage? Welcome back to By the Way, Did You Know? And today we're talking about an issue that has been floating around the Capitol for a long time, and it's something that the House Republicans have really pushed back on the last couple years. The Governor Wolf pushed it, now Josh Shapiro's pushing it, and it's minimum wage. And unfortunately, now that we are in a one-vote minority, House Democrats have made this a push to increase the minimum wage to an artificial number and passed a bill out of the House about 2 weeks ago, artificially increasing minimum wage to a number that we just decide is appropriate. And with me today to talk about why that is a problem, why that's challenging to the Commonwealth, is my good friend Greg Moreland from NFIB. Greg, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Representative.
So, Greg, you're one of the leaders on explaining really the realistic impact that minimum wage will have, increasing minimum wage will have on the Commonwealth, our small businesses, our farmers, are really the backbone of the Pennsylvania economy. So from a big overlook of what the increased minimum wage is, what does that do to the Commonwealth?
Sure. I think the answer is pretty simple, actually. When you raise labor costs on small businesses, they are forced to pass those costs on to the consumers for their products and services. Small businesses do not have the ability to absorb, increased costs in their labor, which are government mandated, right? And what we saw over the pandemic was that the market has adjusted, right? No longer can you go to anywhere really and find a $7.25 an hour job that they don't exist anymore. Those businesses, if they do still pay their workers $7.25, have likely gone out of business by now. So what we're seeing is that the market has really driven wages higher, and look, in a free economy, that's the way it's supposed to go. It's not supposed to be the government telling small businesses how much they should pay their employees. And so, small businesses are going to, if this were to pass into law, small businesses are going to be left with the tab. And then ultimately, they're going to pass that price on to the consumer, and that's going to, perpetuate the ever high inflation that we're seeing right now.
And look, I've been a pretty outspoken opponent of minimum wage, generally speaking. It's first off, it's the free market. I'm a free market guy. I think generally it's you let the market control, and look, the market's working. Folks are getting $15+ an hour to start most jobs, and if you're not looking hard enough, because whether it's you drive down the road, there's a billboard somewhere, or there's signs everywhere in front of stores saying starting wage is $15, $17, $18 an hour, and if you're not getting those jobs, well, then there's something else going on, right? And we got to figure out how to get people into better paying jobs, not just artificially increase their wage.
Absolutely. And I think there's a very large misconception that is being pushed by some that would like to see the wages go higher. That everyone out there that makes minimum wage is a single mother with multiple kids and doesn't have money to pay any bills, right? But the statistics don't say that, right? If you look at the 2023 minimum wage report from the Department of Labor and Industry, 93% of minimum wage earners do not have children. 57% of minimum wage earners live in a household with a combined income of $75,000 or higher, right? Oftentimes, these are folks that work at a nonprofit, right? They were a volunteer for some time, and the library said, hey, we'd like to reward you for all of your hard work and your dedication to this nonprofit, and we would like to reward you with, a paycheck, right? But we can't afford to pay you a ton of money, but it's a slight reward for the retiree or the volunteer, and they'll give them a minimal amount of money to just simply reward them. We are not sitting here talking about, the single mother of 3 kids making $7.25 an hour, working 4 different jobs. It is an anomaly. It is not a realistic situation. But, politics is really about, PR, really, at the end of the day. And the Democrats have really pushed that this is the class of folks that are making minimum wage. And what we're seeing is that is absolutely not true. The vast majority of the 63,000 workers that are actually making minimum wage here in the Commonwealth today are servers. And I don't know about you, but I know plenty of servers that are not walking home with $7.25 an hour. They're walking home with cash in their pocket because they've worked hard and they're good at their job and they were good to their customers. And so they don't make minimum wage really at the end of the day.
And let's talk about that too. So one of the other problematic components of this bill is tip wages, and that was also addressed in this artificial increase in minimum wage. That tip waged workers, so our servers, people that work in restaurants, that has been increased, which is also problematic. So their wages are a little bit lower because obviously lots of restaurants work for tips and, like you said, do very well in a couple hours time, make great money being waitresses and waiters at restaurants. However, here we go, artificially increasing wages again. And what impact's that going to have on our restaurant industry?
Sure. Well, I would like to say that go out and talk to your server, your bartender, your service provider, and ask them if they would like to see this. I can guarantee you they are not, because the threat is that they're going to actually walk away with less tips. Right? Their hourly wage may go up from the current $2.83, which is the statutory minimum for tip earners, $2.83 an hour. But oftentimes they're walking home with several $100s in their pocket, right? Well, now that's a threat to that several $100s in their pocket in a night, because if the business is forced to raise the cost of their prices of their goods, right, and the customers understand that these individuals are making well more than the $2.83 that they're making now, they're going to be less incentivized to tip that server or waiter or bartender for good service. And so I think if you go out and speak to the workers, many times government thinks they have the answer. Government is, here to help the people. Oftentimes they simply just get in the way.
Yeah, less government in my book's always been my motto. Less government is good for the people of Pennsylvania, whether you're talking about this or regulation. Over-regulation is something that I hear from a lot of constituents that they're just so fed up with. And here we are again, picking a number kind of out of the air. Oh, $15 an hour sounds great. Why not $100 an hour? You want to start paying people? I mean, we're kind of being silly here, but you want to talk about artificially increasing the wage? Why not make it $50 an hour?
We had this exact conversation with Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis. He came over to our small business day that we held here in Harrisburg back in April, and we had this conversation. I had asked him, I said, look, I understand that you guys want to do a $15 minimum wage. We are not going to see eye to eye. I had a room full of 35 business owners there with me, right? And, one of my owners said, hey, Lieutenant Governor, why don't you just make it 50, right? Why are we going to stop at 15? Why don't you just make it 50? And we could just take everyone out of poverty. If that's what you think is the answer to it, why don't we do 50? And the Lieutenant Governor failed to engage on the conversation because he knew that he had nothing to say back in return, because it's unrealistic, right? You can't have employees getting paid an artificial number, right? And there's no economic impact, right? And I think that's what we're seeing. NFIB commissioned a study on House Bill 1500 by an independent organization, and we got that study back about 2 weeks ago, right in time for House Bill 1500 to move. And what we found is that by 2033, there's a negative employment impact of almost 104,000 jobs, or over 1% of the state employment, if we raised it to $15 an hour. And overwhelmingly, many of those jobs, 58,000 or 56% of those jobs, are in small business. And so it's certainly not benefiting the employee if there's going to be 104,000 less jobs, and then you look at the negative economic output impact of almost $14 billion, with $7 billion of that coming directly from the small business community. I mean, what are we doing here? We're not helping the employee. We're potentially taking their job away from them, by interfering with the marketplace. And so it's NFIB's position that, government shouldn't get involved. Businesses should be left to their own device to pay their employees and their own compensation package, whatever that may be, for an hourly wage, benefits, all of that, all combined. It's not simply the hourly wage in which we're looking at. And so, honestly, if the minimum wage went to zero, I think many of our members would be happy, because that sets the stage for them to adjust appropriately, right? And if they go out of business, then it was their fault, right? And they feel like the government didn't put them out of business. It would have been their own fault.
And look, we are in a time where technology is advancing at the speed of light, and we've already seen it in a lot of our convenience stores, our grocery stores, our retail stores, that everything's being automated.
Sure.
Whether it's self-checkouts or heck, Giants got Marty going around and cleaning the floor. Like these things are happening, and there's a reason for that, because industry is realizing it's cheaper to put in this technology, because they can't afford to pay somebody $15-20 an hour, whatever the artificial wage is. You're putting people out of work.
Yeah. While there might be a small upfront cost to incorporate some of that technology into their business, the long-term benefit of it outweighs the upfront cost. That computer screen doesn't call off sick or doesn't have, issues getting to work. That computer screen is not going to hurt itself at work and be out of work for some time. And so, they're looking at all different avenues of approach here. And what the small business owner is going to do is they're going to look at that, 30-hour-a-week worker who was making, $11 right now. And if they're artificially moved up to 15, well, they're not going to keep that 30 hours a week and actually make more money. What they're going to do is they're going to lower that individual's hours to 23, 24 hours a week. And then they're going to end up with the same net take home that they are right now. Small business owners have limited ability to incorporate these high labor costs and the ability to pass that on. There's only so high you're willing to pay for, that cup of coffee, $3, $4. Well, when it gets to $6 and $7, because costs have gone so high on small businesses, you're going to start changing consumer behavior. And that's not a good thing. It's not a good thing for anyone, especially the small business community.
And look, we're sitting here poo-pooing, minimum wage as House Republicans. What are you going to do to fix the poverty issue? There are solutions, and we've been working on them for years. Our position has always been getting people to get into these high-paying jobs, better job training. We've been supporting families through career tech education, supporting our community colleges, things that are actually going to get people out of minimum wage jobs. It's a starter job, or it's a place where people start to learn those soft skills. And then give those folks the tools to get out of that job and to rise up through a company or rise up through school, and to have an opportunity for the family to increase their income, to buy a house, to spend money in the Commonwealth. Not just, okay, here's an extra $5 an hour, and not incentivize people to make a better life for themselves.
Sure. I think we really need to take a hard look at how we've been educating our youth and educating our young adults through our colleges. I think we need to be looking more at career and technical education and working with your hands. There are a lot of great opportunities out there to work with your hands, and coming right out of high school with minimal training, you can make $60,000, $70,000 a year starting out and move right into the six figures, within time. These are good, solid jobs, but I think, we need to do more as a Commonwealth to encourage that. We need to do more to bring this our youth up in the right way. I joined the military, and, I learned how to be in the right place, right time, right uniform pretty quickly, right? Because there were consequences if I wasn't.
Right.
So, I think while not everyone has to go into the military to learn some of these skills, I think that, it would be beneficial if we were able to provide some jobs to teenagers and to start teaching them the soft skills. But when you're talking about a $15 minimum wage, many small businesses aren't going to be willing to offer that opportunity to the young individual. They're going to want something guaranteed for that dollar figure they're paying.